Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's questions are asking if I would discuss how and why narcissistic people often behave as if they're superior to others, why they act as if they're more intelligent, more accomplished than they often are, and why do they find it so difficult to back down whenever they're in error. So, if you like this video, if you find it interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. Now, when we're talking about narcissism, I'm not talking about someone who may be a little difficult or a little selfish from time to time. When it comes to narcissism, this is often characterized by a sense of entitlement, being self-absorbed. There's a lack of empathy for others, and being highly disagreeable. They can be highly resistant to criticism, and can be very envious of others and believe that others should be envious of them. That envy, I think, is why we often see a very competitive streak. Anyone else who is accomplished, intelligent, or has achieved something, that can bring something of a blow to their ego, often referred to as a narcissistic wound. And these ego wounds can be triggered by anyone, strangers, partners, work colleagues, sometimes even their own children. So what we often see is a lot of one-upmanship, as they go to great lengths to try and outshine others, and if they can't outshine others, they'll try to devalue them somehow. If you will, the sort of person who might claim that Harrison Ford is just a failed carpenter. So let's look at some of the common ways narcissistic people try to make themselves look, sound, or appear superior to others. And these behaviors would be pretty much all the time, not just once in a while. So first of all, they exaggerate, lie about their intelligence and their skill set. If they're having a conversation with someone who perhaps has a degree, they may try and devalue that degree, that their degree is much more important or was much harder work. Or they might claim they had perhaps 4 degrees. Or if they're talking to someone with perhaps a specific skill set, they may claim that they are a fully qualified, and yes, they often use terms like fully qualified. They are a fully qualified forklift driver, electrician, brain surgeon. Now, if they're asked a question by someone who doesn't really know the topic, would have no real difficulty in just making up an answer in order to impress. However, if they're talking with someone who does know the topic, does have a bit of knowledge in that area, they could be very quick to change the topic of conversation. Now, if they are challenged or corrected on a certain point, they can become quite defensive, sometimes even aggressive. However, if they are corrected or challenged on a point by, say, an authority figure, like perhaps a boss in work, they may claim it's because they have been misinformed or perhaps lied to or set up to look like a fool. It's never got anything to do with their lack of knowledge. Secondly, they use language to sound more intelligent. Someone might mention the rain outside and they will say the same thing back but refer to precipitation. In fact, have you ever noticed that a lot of narcissistic word salad is often full of words that they consider to be intelligent words? When they're explaining things, they use a lot of language like perhaps specifically, literally, logically, or notwithstanding. Or they may use a lot of technical jargon that few others would understand. If someone can't understand what they're talking about, they can't really criticize it. Sometimes they may even just hear words that they think sound intelligent, intellectual, and have a grasp of what that word means, but use it out of context and often in bizarre, ridiculous situations. Now, when others don't understand what that narcissistic person is talking about, they may just claim it is because they are just too simple-minded to grasp an easy concept. Thirdly, they will only really associate with intelligent people. Rich people, famous people, people of a certain status, behave as if they are in that same group. An example could be, say, in the workplace. You have that colleague who only ever really mixes with people at a senior level. People at their own level, they can be maybe cold, distant, or dismissive. They may even behave as if they are a manager themselves, giving instructions, handing out tasks, asking for updates, and sometimes even giving permission for their colleagues to take their lunch breaks. Number 4, they take control of situations. They take control of projects, even take control whenever there is a crisis. Now, this could be perhaps advising someone on their legal standing, even though they've no legal experience themselves, or their health issues, even though they don't have a medical background. They may advise on where to buy a house, what to say if they're having trouble with someone. They tend to behave as if they will always know the best course of action, And sometimes genuinely they might, but however, more often than not, they just like the sound of their own voice and getting people to do whatever they say. Now, if their advice works out, they get to claim, I saved you. If the situation wasn't as bad as they thought, they may claim, well, I was working behind the scenes to save you. If it blows up in their face, they may claim, well, I never said that, or you didn't do it the way I told you. Or they may create a so-called crisis where they get to be the hero and save the day. For example, they may spread gossip between two different parties, but then act as a mediator to resolve the conflict. Number 5, suggestions, plans from other people. There's generally a fault or an error or a reason why it wouldn't work. They will have a better idea or a way of fixing it. Or if someone does suggest something that seems like a good idea, they may say the same thing back again, but using different language as if it has now become their idea. Or if it's an idea or a plan that everyone is on board with, if they're part of a group, for example, they may look for problems or issues that maybe aren't really there or aren't really that big a deal. Or perhaps they might insist on a slight change just to give themselves a sense of ownership over it. Now, an example of this would be a place I worked many years ago where all the managers had to decide how they were going to inform the staff of certain procedures and rules and things like that. So we all agreed that we would send an email to all staff. We would insist the team leaders talk to their staff during staff meetings to inform them. And we would also put posters and leaflets up in the staff room so that everyone could see it. One person could not come up with ideas of their own and could not find any objections that would stick. So her contribution in the end was to insist that staff use blue drawing pins to put the posters up. Number 6, they might claim to have tests or scientific proof of their characteristics. They claim they're very sensitive to others. They did a test online and they're very empathic. Or perhaps their counselor has told them they're just far too caring. They may have a particularly high IQ. Again, a test showed it. Curious thing is, though, if you've ever noticed, no one ever gets to see them take these tests or even see the results. So they will use these tests, if you will, to lie about their achievements, their performance, their virtues, how much they've sacrificed for others. Or they will use these test results as evidence that their boss in work, their partner, even their own kids are holding them back. And lastly, number 7, no matter what they do, no matter if they know they're wrong, and even if they know everyone else knows they're wrong, they will not back down from their position because that would be a blow to that fragile ego. Backing down would mean they have a flaw. It might be a sign of weakness, a sign of fault, or a sign of error. In fact, the very things that they often exploit and jump on when it comes to others. And when called out or challenged, they may give a condescending laugh, roll their eyes, wave their hand, just be dismissive of whoever has challenged them, disregard even the evidence in front of them. Quite often they will attack the person, not their argument or not their position. And this could involve maybe pointing out the other person's errors, even their past errors, insult who they are, their age, their physical characteristics. Common tactic would be to put that person into a particular group and then make sweeping statements. People like you are always. They'll try to invalidate their opponent. Are you a lawyer? Are you a scientist? By the way, even if that other person is a lawyer or a scientist, that still isn't enough because they have an A level in something. Because of their cognitive bias, they will always look for anything that can justify why the other person, the other person's point, the other person's argument should be disregarded, not taken seriously. They believe it is easier to attack the person than to defend their own position. Another tactic would be to misrepresent what has been said to them, exaggerate, lie, sometimes even become aggressive. That would be easier than just admitting they don't know what they're talking about, or perhaps even they are just genuinely mistaken. And when others are proved right somehow, or perhaps more accomplished or have achieved more, it is because they are bad, they have cheated, and they have exploited others. Or it might become something of a pity party. They had the chance to do or to be something spectacular, but they gave it up for something much more noble, or they were cheated out of it, or they have been held back somehow. Because with pathological narcissism, what we often see is someone who isn't really open to new information or new experiences. which is why we see little growth. And that fragile ego makes it difficult for them to concede any kind of ground without looking weak, or rather feeling as if they're weak, to others. Many just end up digging deeper holes for themselves, making themselves look more and more ridiculous in their efforts to look superior. So there are just 7 ways narcissistic people behave to look as if they're superior to others. Now, as always, I'm sure there's many I could have added to this. Please feel free to use the comment box below. There are some interesting conversations started around these videos. But if you like this video, if you found it interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.